Targeting nuclear programs. We conclude this semester with this article for two reasons. First, I think it's an extraordinarily well-written, organized, and poignant article. The sections are very clear, the analysis is straightforward, and the policy implications are important. The second reason that we end on this particular article is that when we think about nuclear programs and nuclear activities, one of the unique facets of nuclear policy research is the ability to think broadly. So prior to this article and the other two that they produced from this data set, we knew that nuclear targeting was occurring, but no one had really investigated it. And so this gives us a great sense of how to take the theoretical critique and turn it into articles, because that's what they did. They went through the same kind of article review process that I have you do and I do on my own, and they identified a weakness in our understanding of nuclear programs that said we need to be able to identify the effects of targeting. So they collected their data and they wrote the articles. So this is a very straightforward article, like I mentioned. If there's a security threat, states are more likely to target facilities. The authors break it down into three different categories. If you have mid and militarized interstate dispute, if you're an autocratic proliferator, so for example, if Belgium wants to build a new, they'd probably be building an enrichment plant, well, the United States or no one's really going to care, right? It's a democratic country, tons of protections, the IAEA is going to be involved. We don't expect any kind of foul play or anything along those lines. But if it's an autocratic proliferator, right, a pariah state or a rogue state or whatever kind of title you want to use, if it's an autocratic, if it's a dictator, because there's no checks on that activity, may be more likely to use strikes. So we think about this in the case of Israel's strike against Iraq in the early 80s. Saddam Hussein is an autocratic proliferator. The view of Iraq developing a nuclear weapon was a non-option for the Israelis, so they conducted the airstrike. Third would be a divergent foreign policy interest. So of the three, this is kind of the lesser of the three, is do your foreign policies align? If they don't, your facilities are more likely to be struck. Key thing to take away for us is that states are less concerned about retaliation if acquisition of nuclear weapons by other state poses a significant threat. AKA, if we are, so this is an Israeli case, it doesn't really matter what the international community does, and it doesn't matter if the Iraqis fire missiles at Israel, because the scenario where Saddam Hussein has a nuclear weapon is so intolerable for the Israelis that it's worth risking the airstrikes on the nuclear power plant in southern Iraq. That's what we're looking at. Now, I think in terms of the article, it's really important that you be able to process this one. If you have questions, you need to ask. Send me emails, text me. Many of you are very comfortable calling me. Do that. The only part of this paper that I think is a little more confusing than others is Table 3 discussion. Mostly because we haven't gone through the statistics of the crosstabs, and it presents very different than some of the other statistical results. Everything else is straightforward and you have the substantive effects. So you may think, oh, well, why don't you just tell me all of what needs to be in here? We are now at the point where you have done this at least 12 times and you can do it. So with that, the course is over in terms of course content, and I look forward to helping finish the policy memos, finishing the simulation, and finishing the remaining assignments to complete this course. Thanks.